everyone. Hi, thanks for joining us. CDBG third Thursdays at 3 again. We appreciate everyone who signed up to get some more information about CDBG programs. For those of you who have attended before, you can probably see we're a little bit shorter staffed today. We have some of our members are on vacation or out sick. So today we just have myself, the director of CDBG, Andrew, Brandon Hutton, Tim Parks, and Zajic, and we have a special guest hiding behind Ann. We're allowed to bring our children to work this week, and Ann brought her daughter who doesn't like to be on camera, but she's here as well. And we also have Linda Hunziker on video or online, and Sarah Bloom, who's going to be sharing some information about tax credits a little bit later today. So our focus for today will be, first off, we want to take people through our new website on a little bit of a tour of our new website. We're really excited about it. We worked with a consultant to redesign it to make it more easy to use for communities and for RPCs and administrators. And so we just want to take everyone through a tutorial of what types of tools we have on the website. And then if anyone has any questions or comments who has used the website before, we would open it up and feel free to hear opinions from other people about the website. And then after that, we'll quickly go through PowerPoint about our competitive grant programs that have a due date of May 1st. We just want to go through some tips just in case people are thinking about proposing or have questions about projects. We'll go through those programs. And then if people have questions that we can answer about those programs, we'll answer them. And then closing, after that, Sarah Bloom will take about 10 minutes to present about CSP opportunities. So with that, I'll pass it off to Brandon, and he will quickly give us a tour of our brand new website that's been online for about 2 weeks. I hope some of you have had the opportunity to see it. We will put the new website's address in the chat as well, so people can look at it too. So go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm going to do a quick walk through the new CDBG website. It has gone through a pretty big overhaul. Visually, the content is still there. It just might not be where you are most familiar with it. So going to the website, you can follow along with me if you're at home or if you want to just watch the screen. But our new website link is www anymore. It's just kansascommerce.gov/CDBG. It is 2023. You don't have to www anymore. So starting off, we have our beautiful, CDBG block by block image. But this is our landing page for CDBG. This page will have all of our programs that you can apply for, all the programs that you're familiar with. We've got nonprofit childcare, water and sewer, urgent needs for disasters. They are on in these nice little blocks here that you can click on that leads to more information. And we'll jump into a couple of those here in just a second. But as you scroll down a ways, you'll get some links to some of the other pages. You can see all CDBG programs here. So that includes all the other non-competitive CDBG grants. We've got our resources here. Our resources page includes all our guidelines. All the resources that we had prior to this update will be here. And then finding a grant professional in Kansas tells me find those professionals. And I'll actually click on this link here in just a second to show you all. We have our contact information here. So we've got all the CDBG specialists and Andrew's information here. So if you need to contact anybody, you have our information. And so besides jumping into these links, I want to show you the Find Grant Professionals piece because it is a very cool new tool that we have. And so in order to find some grant professionals in an area, we actually broke it down by county or city. And so we'll pick Abilene, for example. When you change to the different city or county, it'll actually show you consulting groups and grant writers that are within, I think it's a 50-mile radius.
think so,
It
yeah.
might be a little bit further, but these are the folks that you can reach out to.
And it's presented all in alphabetical order each time it resets. So all you have to do is scroll down and it'll give you more options.
Yeah, so we'll check. So we see Abilene there. We've got Bird City. So you see how it kind of changes and shifts. So use this resource if you do not have a local grant administrator or you want to find a new grant administrator. This is a great tool for you all to be utilizing. And so jumping into one of the actual program areas, I decided to choose the nonprofit childcare education facilities. This is the first one I picked. And this is a good example of one of our grant programs diving into the actual web page. So you've got our funding, you've got some initial information. So you have kind of the overview information here. You've got the matches, you've got when it's due, qualification. This is a very, very important tool. And I would love to see a poll or a hand or just post in the chat if you have actually used our LMI calculator. And so by using this, by choosing, I'll choose Altoona for an example. By choosing Altoona, it'll actually bring you down and show you if you qualify for LMI. And so we see that Altoona's community is at a 60% LMI and it's below the 80%. So you will have to use a survey to prove LMI.
That's part because of the program, because this is childcare program. So it's going to be based on program participants. So if you went to another page and looked up Altoona.
So we'll look at Altoona for sidewalks and trails. And so you can see that I already did this one ahead of time, but I clicked on Altoona and they are at a 60% LMI for sidewalks and trails. And so they automatically apply for the LMI requirement for LMI. So those are different based off the different programs. So please use that calculator to help you determine qualification if you need to do a survey or not.
And just so everyone knows that the LMI calculator rounds down. So if your communities, we have the numbers. So if your community is at 50.75%, it's going to round down on that calculator and it's going to show you 50% because for CDBG and HUD requirements, you can't round up with that number. So that's why we round down. So we give you the appropriate number to base your program off of. I think the important thing to take note here is that the calculator works differently for each program. The calculator is tailored to each program. So if you put in Altoona for one program, it'll spit out this information that you need. But if you put it in for like childcare, it'll tell you that you need to have targeted clientele. So it's really a tool that we use before I go into meetings with people who are interested in CDBG programs. If someone calls one of us and says, hey, I'm from Bird City and I want to, I'm interested in CDBG. As a staff, we go in and we use the calculator to see where everyone stands before we go into those conversations. So it looks like we have a question. It says, I have used the calculator. I believe the calculator is using 2015 census data. When will the newer data be used for the calculator? That's a great question. And the answer is, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but as soon as we receive the new census data from HUD, we'll work with our consultant who's helped us develop the website and we will update with the new info for the calculator. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go.
It'll be later 2023.
Perfect. It'll be later 2023. But this data, until that data is received, this data is good to go. So,
Sherry, that was a great question. Thank you. And so for the main discussion, so we have our website here. We've got our FAQs within each of the subcategories and grants. I showed you the LMI requirement. You can also
scroll up a little bit real quick. So a little bit more. All of the grant, a little bit more, sorry. So all of the grant right there. So all of the grant guidelines for each program can be found under this selection criteria category. If you look at the last bullet there, Brandon, if you want to hover over it with your mouse, it says grant guidelines. So if you go into each program tile, you can find the grant guidelines for each program right there. And we're actually working on getting that more prominent, bolder lettering, so everyone can see that. But if people are looking for guidelines, I know people have messaged me asking about guidelines. They're available on every program page and that link. Yep. All right.
Perfect. And so scrolling down just a little bit more, you do have the find assistance section. So I showed you where to find the grant administrators in your area. We also have a link to it on each of the application pages. So you have access to that. You'll have access to the grant guidelines also down here. You've got our 2023 general application requirements. You've got a link to the resources, the resource page that I showed you earlier. There's a link to the application, and then you have questions. You can contact the CDBG specialist who is kind of spearheading this specific project. So all the information, it's located in multiple areas on our website. So you should not have troubles of accessing the information or finding the information. You just might have to scroll down a little bit more to find it. But again, if you have any issues with the website, if there's information that's missing or information you feel is incorrect, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah.
Contact somebody at CDBG.
And Brianna, do you mind pull up the view all resources?
Yeah.
Scroll down. So this is our resource library. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. If there's something you think we're missing here or something, if someone notices, we're missing a resource or missing a form, please let us know. We want to keep this as updated as possible to support all of your application needs. And I think one more thing I would like to add is that people have been asking us about economic development programs because that's not on the website currently. We're working on getting that tile up on the website, hopefully in the next week or two. So then you'll have the information on economic development as well. Okay.
Perfect. So that is a little bit of a guide through for the new website.
Yeah. Anything else we're missing on the website? I think that's good.
So any links, see if I just found a page not found link. So I'm glad we're going through this because we can help kind of troubleshoot this a little bit. If there's any links that are dead or anything like that, please reach out and let us know. We can get you that information as soon as possible, and we'll make sure to contact our website designers to get that fixed.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about the website before we move on to our next part?
Hey, Andrew, you might want to remind people too that we now have a sign up list for particular areas. If you're interested in certain program areas, you can get updates about those particular programs.
Through the tiles?
Yep, we have the sign up for the list.
Okay. Is it that get program notifications? There you go. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, on each individual tile, thank you, Kayla. You can click on get program notifications. And so any program your community is interested in, you could enter your name, click on the programs, and then any program updates will be emailed to you. So you're on top of everything. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Okay. It doesn't seem like we have any questions in the chat, but if you think of any, don't hesitate to ask. We will jump right into the third Thursday topic of this month, which are program tips. And so this is, we've compiled some of the program tips from each of our CDBG programs. And we're gonna go over those today, see if it sparks any conversations or any questions before we lead into our conversation that Sarah's gonna have.
These are specifically, we just wanted to go over our competitive programs one more time. These programs we're going to talk about are for the competitive round that the applications are all due on May 1st. We did see some questions in there about housing on the third Thursday sheet. So at the end of this, if anyone has questions about programs outside of the competitive round, we'd be happy to answer those as well. So go ahead.
So the first grant program we're going to talk about today is going to be the nonprofit childcare and early education facilities. And so a few tips for success for this program is that this program helps communities with a shortage of childcare options, also called childcare deserts. If you would like to see if your community is in a childcare desert, you can go to childcaredeserts.org. And it's a really cool website that shows maps of where these deserts are located in the entire country. And so you could put in your information and see if you're located in one of these childcare deserts. And it's a very fascinating map. I would highly recommend you visiting it if you have time. Another tip for success is secure private funding for matching requirements. to assist with operating costs for childcare. This is very critical to success. And currently we are, operating costs are not always, they're not allowed in this specific CDBG project. We do want to make an announcement. I believe the grant is still open, the accelerator grant.
Yeah, the accelerator grant, maybe we could drop the information for that into the chat, but that can be matched, was it childcare aware?
Yeah. Yep.
Providing funding, $40 million in funding. It can be matched with our CDBG funding.
Yep.
And so anyone who's interested in a childcare program should certainly be looking at CDBG and that accelerator program.
If you've heard us talk in the past month, you've probably heard us talk about this accelerator grant. So we will continue to push that because it's a great opportunity for childcare providers to help with operation costs.
And Sarah Bloom just dropped it in the chat. So anyone who's interested in childcare certainly needs to click on that link. Thank you, Sarah.
And our one of our last tips for this section, Andrew mentioned childcare aware. That is a great resource for childcare facilities.
All in Kansas.
Make sure, all under kids. Make sure you are receiving childcare aware's newsletter if you have anything to do with early childhood. They provide resources, professional developments, funding opportunities. They are the go-to for that work. You should be keeping an eye out on the Dane Hansen Foundation. They also provide grants and can do some supporting for childcare facilities in the state. So those are two resources that you should be following if you are a childcare facility or an early childhood provider.
Childcare aware.
Again, this is just some more information about childcare where this is a priority for this administration is to really focus on childcare facilities and just childcare in the state. And so this will be a topic of importance moving forward. So the next program we're going to talk about is the YJT or the Youth Job Training Program. And so a few tips for success for YJT is with developing a youth job training program, be sure to include the voices of the youth population you plan on serving. I would highly recommend if you're serving middle or high school program or high school youth in any capacity, you should be utilizing some sort of survey or story collection from them so that you are collecting their voice on how to develop that program. You really want them to have some input because it'll help with recruitment, it'll help with developing the program and making it successful. A way to do this is by creating a diverse youth committee to help plan your program. And so I know a lot of folks that I've worked with in the past have created youth committees during to help out with their planning committees. And it's been very successful. So that's a good way to capture youth voice in a more direct way. When you're looking at partners that help provide enrichment content, they can help make the program funner and exciting. And so not having to burden that weight of enrichment on your shoulders, utilize those local organizations and local businesses to help out with the enrichment piece of the youth job training program. Partnership building is also a key component in sustainability. So when you're doing partnerships, when you're building partnerships, make sure you're strategic about it. Determine if this is going to be an enrichment partner, a financial partner, a little bit of both. It'll help out with program sustainability. An example of some of those partners that you should be working with for YJT are school districts, any type of youth development agency you have, YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, any type of faith-based youth agency programs that have youth in the area. Workforce development organizations, nonprofits, and for-profit businesses are some of the partners you should be developing. That list is pretty broad. It's almost everybody in the community, and that's really what you should be looking at. You should be looking at anybody in the community that can be providing some quality services to these youth that you can partner with. You ideally want to build your program around the needs of the community without duplicating efforts. So if you're in a larger community, make sure that that has maybe multiple schools or multiple youth development agencies. See what they're currently doing with youth job training so that you're not duplicating the efforts and kind of stepping on people's toes, because workforce development is a very large and broad topic. I guarantee not everybody's doing everything for it. So you can be filling in those gaps with your program by just having conversations with local agencies to see what they're currently doing. All right, Tim is going to take the community recreation sidewalks and trails.
Sounds good.
All right.
Next slide for me.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Tim Parks again. So we're talking about community facilities. And if you don't automatically qualify for that 51% low LMI, which is on that calculator that we just talked about on our website, you can conduct an income-based survey to determine whether or not that specific area that you plan to serve, whether it's a park or whatever it's going to be, you have to establish that service area and determine and go out and survey that. And if you can survey that and come up with at least 51% of the population meeting low and moderate income guidelines, then you're able to move forward with the project. So not every project like that's going to be a community-wide project. So sometimes we have to look at segments of the community, and that's where that survey comes into play. We want to make sure these are both bonus points. So we really want to encourage that to be happening. I think it's going to be on all of our projects. So securing at least 10% of that required match and having that be from private funding sources, not federal, not state, whether that's cash, whether that's foundations, whatever the case may be. If you're able to make it be the private sources, you can secure up to 10 bonus points on that application. And then another 10 bonus points are available for those trying to encourage new applicants into the process. You can, if you've not submitted a housing, community facilities, or water sewer project in the last 5 years, you then would also be eligible for another 10 bonus points. And given the fact that all these grants are awarded based on bonus or based on points, you know, taking advantage of these bonus points is extremely important. Go ahead and hit the next one. Thank you. All right, that was pretty quick and easy on that one. Now we're going to talk about what we have historically called architectural barrier removal, ABR. We're now trying to call it accessibility for public and commercial facilities. Some tips for success here, as this is non-residential, right? So we want to make sure that we survey, encourage communities to go out, drive that downtown business, that corridor, wherever you have your kind of older 1890s and 1900 old brick buildings out there. A lot of them have that step or that second step up there. So if you can go through that community, get together with your community folks and drive those and see what buildings are having issues and not having issues, talk to them about whether they want to participate or not in that. So that's an important thing. And then the other thing is going to be that we want to try to ensure that the businesses or building the services that are provided there, whether it's goods or services, the clientele are primarily serving either elderly or severely disabled adults. So this is not anything for youth. We really kind of wrestle with that and have kind of geared down to determine that the best way for us to do that, because I've been wrestling with that, talking to some communities about this. It's like, well, how do we demonstrate that the folks coming in the door are elderly or severely disabled adults? And that is a challenge. So I think the guidance that we're giving right now is that we look at our census data for your community, city, county, whatever the situation may be, and look at those that are determined in designated as severely disabled and elderly, look at that numbers compared to your community and submit that to Commerce. And that will kind of be our way to show to HUD that yes, these businesses are serving these folks. There's a good representation in the community, and this is a positive thing for those folks and the community as a whole. Okay, next slide. Again, the work needs to, this is really a key component. I also work with commercial rehab. A lot of you might be able to do that. A lot of times we're looking at phases with commercial rehab, right? We're going to do the exterior, we're going to shore up the exterior, and phase 2 is going to be coming in and doing the interior work. We're very used to that type of a project. However, in this specific program, that is not the case. There is no phasing to it. This has to be a very restricted project to only address the architectural barriers in that building that you're looking to remove. So we can't do anything above and beyond that. No larger scope is available. And the trade-off to that is if we do that, then we kind of have that presumption of meeting the low and moderate income folks that was just talked about. So little wonky, little different rules for this program, keeping it to only architectural barriers and having the primary recipients of that benefit being those adults and severely disabled adults. being elderly and severely disabled adults. Sorry about that. And I think that's it. The next slide. I think that's the last.
Bad question.
Yeah.
No, good. Sorry, I'm sorry. All right. Are those buildings that are open to the public eligible, even though they have both elderly disabled and non-disabled customers? Yes. I mean, that kind of comes right back to that point because that's the challenge, right? I think the biggest issue is going to be staying away from programming that are youth oriented, childcare centers, school buildings, at least they have the youth coming to it, because I know we've talked about administrative buildings, but yes, you're always going to have non-disabled, able-bodied, whatever you want to say, persons taking advantage of the goods and services provided by this business. We just want to be able to demonstrate that they're to HUD, that we have, some communities, we know that there's elderly and we know that there's disabled folks that aren't able to do that couple steps or that doorway they can't get through with the wheelchair or whatever the situation it is. We just need to demonstrate that these folks are using this business also. And I think we're comfortable with telling HUD that based on census data, that's how we're going to kind of justify or prove that to be eligible. So talk to us, me particularly. I'm one that operates that program. If you have a specific question, we can drill down and make sure we don't have a lot of time left. So happy to talk to you any point in time you can about that. We've been very flexible on that definition of what's eligible. We'll work through this first year. It's a new program. So we're trying to be as, the big picture is we want these communities to be accessible to everybody in the community, right? I mean, it's hard when all of our downtowns have 1 or 2 steps and folks can't get up to those. So we want to make an effort to try to address those things in our community. So that's what this program is all about.
Yeah, and then to add on that, having driven around, Tim and I drove around the state for the road shows in the last couple of months, and almost every town in Kansas where we drive through has an area or a street where this program could be applicable. So please reach out to Tim if you're interested in applying. There's still time. So with that, does anyone, I think that's the last slide, right?
For sure.
Okay. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions about those programs or any other CDBG programs that we could answer for you right now? I think, a couple of general tips that we would have, for any of these programs is to, there's a lot of regulations and red tape to get through for CDBG. So we would encourage you, especially if you're new to this program, to reach out to the regional planning commissions or grant administrators. They're there to support you through these complex application processes. It looks like we have another question.
The question is from Sherry, do you anticipate that the YJT program will be available in future years, or is this a one-year program?
Currently, I definitely anticipate it to be available next year. Yeah, and for the next few years. That's our goal.
And Sherry, if you're looking for youth development funding, reach out to me and we can have a conversation. I know of some other funding sources that you might be able to look at or tap into.
Yeah, and if, again, one of our goals at CDBG and in the community development division here at Commerce in general is if we can't help you, if we can't find you help through CDBG, we'll find you another grant program or another organization or another community development program to help you find some funding. We're really, really about finding solutions for Kansas communities. Any other questions before we let Sarah Bloom talk about another opportunity? Anything? Could be on something outside of our competitive programs. Anything else? All right, Sarah, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Well, speaking of other funding, especially
Yes,
when
here.
it comes to youth apprenticeship and youth technical training, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm about to share my screen. Let me know if you see it okay. How about that? Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, now here's the real question. Can you see it forwarding?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Looks great.
Hey, that didn't work last time I did this presentation and they didn't tell me till the very end. Well, thank you guys for letting me join you. As I said, my name is Sarah Bloom. I am a part of the Community Development Division along with CDBG, and I get to coordinate 2 of our tax credit programs, one of which we're going to talk about today, which is the Community Service Tax Credit Program. And this is an opportunity for nonprofits to really encourage larger donations as they're undertaking major capital campaigns or major fundraisers for projects in their community. And this is pretty broad as far as programs go. It's for any nonprofit. It's for any community service program or project. And those projects can fall under 4 different categories. 1, community service, and that includes childcare facilities, non-governmental crime prevention, youth apprenticeship and youth technical training, and healthcare services. So what is available? We have $4.1 million in tax credits available. We have 1 million of that set aside for childcare facilities. If we have, now that doesn't mean we have to give $1 million to childcare. It means we want to give $1 million to childcare if we get really great applications. And if we get more applications in childcare and they're all really great, we can give more than that million. But we specifically have 1 million set aside for childcare out of that $4.1 million. The maximum award in tax credits is $200,000. That's the maximum you can request, and it's the maximum amount that we can award. What in the world are tax credits? These are a direct reduction from your final tax obligation. So I'm sure many of you that are on the call already give to 501c3s in your area. And when you file your taxes at the end of the year, you're getting a deduction on that donation. Well, this is a direct reduction from your state jurisdiction. So it's better than a deduction because it's not based on your income. It's not a percentage. This is a direct reduction of your tax liability. And it gets even better because you can take the portion that you don't use towards your state tax liability, and you can still deduct that from your federal income in many cases too. That's something to talk with your accountant about, but we'll give an example of what that could look like financially for a $1,000 donation on the next slide. These are refundable. If you donate and you get a credit that is larger than your tax liability, that's refundable to you. You'll get that as a refund. And they're transferable. If you don't necessarily need the credits and you want to give them to a relative, say a child, you can do that as well. So how do they work? The state will authorize nonprofit organizations these tax credits, again, up to $200,000. The projects have to be new and they have to create lasting value for nonprofit organizations. Businesses or individuals that have a Kansas tax income are eligible to receive these credits. And so even if you have a donor that lives out of the state, if they're making income in Kansas, they can still donate to your project and receive these credits. They have to do a donation of at least $250. But there is no maximum. If somebody wants to write you a check and take all of your credits, that's totally fine. We have 2 different classifications for these credits. One is rural communities, and that is less than 15,000 in population. One is urban communities, which is 15,000 or more. If you're a rural community, you're going to receive a 70% state credit. If you're an urban community, you're going to receive a 50% state credit. There's benefits to both. And if you have questions on what the benefits are, please let me know. But essentially $1,000 donation means $1,000 for your organization's project. You get to keep the entire check. They write that check directly to your organization. And then the donor would receive either $700 or $500 in state credits based on the community that your project is in. It doesn't matter where the donor lives. It's 100% based on where your organization is located and where the project is. So here's a quick example of what that might look like for your project budget. If you are trying to generate funds for a project and say you need $500,000 for your project, this is going to be a pretty good chunk of that, because if you receive $150,000 tax credit allocation, if you're a rural community, that's going to generate $214,285 in donations for your project. And it's really simple math. It's 150,000 divided by 0.7. That's the math equation to know how much you need to ask for to generate the amount of donations you need for your project. Same with an urban community, 150,000 would generate $300,000 in donations. That math formula is the amount that you're asking for divided by 0.5. Here's a quick program timeline. Our applications are open right now through April 30th of 2023. The application will close at 11:59. There is a $250 non-refundable application fee. Awarded projects will be notified no later than July 1st. And that's an important date because that's when tax credits become available for sale. And you have 18 months to sell those tax credits to donors and generate funds for your project. So all the way through to December 31st of next year. And even after the tax credits have expired, that does not mean that your project has to be complete. You still have time after you have sold your credits and fundraised for your project to then complete the project. We'll ask for a final report about 6 months after the expiration of those credits. And we hope that your project is close to being done, if not done. That way you can include pictures in your final report. Let us know how the credits benefited you. We can use that information to promote this CSP program. But even if it's not done at that point, you let us know that, and then those funds that you've raised through the program go into an escrow account. So you have time, even after the 18 months of this program, to then finish your project. It's a pretty great program. It's very competitive. We get between 50 and 60 applications each year. Because of the high demand, we're only able to award about half of those. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to put my contact information up. I know I covered that really, really quickly. If you go to our website, kansascommerce.gov/CSP, there is an hour-long webinar available right now where we go through all the details of this program, all the ins and outs. About 30 minutes of it is just Q&As with organizations like yourself. We've got our guidelines out there. We've got tools to help you with the application process out there. But please reach out. I'm pretty good at answering emails and phone calls. Would love to hear from you. This is combined, or you can combine these with CDBG. I know they talked earlier about how you can stack some of these programs. You can take the donations that you're getting from CSP and use that as your matching funds for other grants, including CDBG or Dangy Hansen or all of those other community foundations out there. I know grant reviewers love to see those matching funds. You can use this program as your matching funds. Please reach out. Let me know if there's any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see questions. Maybe. Yay, it worked. And I don't see any questions.
I think everyone's overwhelmed with how cool that presentation is.
No, that's the first time I've heard it explained like that. And both Tim and I were looking at each other like, whoa, that's a really good program. So I would encourage anyone who's on this call to ask about. Oh, we do have 2 questions now. See?
Yes.
Okay.
You just need time.
Okay. Would Sarah be sending a letter for the CDBG application to show that they have been applied for? Rose, I'm not sure what that means.
The match?
I would assume it's for the match.
Oh, for the match. So you would have to follow a very not specific timeline, but you would, if you're planning on applying for CDBG this year, fantastic. We can't wait to see all the applications. You would not be able to use CSP as a match if you were applying this year because you have to have that cash match in hand before you can put that on your application for CDBG. So if you apply for CSP this year and plan on applying for CDBG next year, then you would already have those donations in hand when you apply, and then you'll have that match and you'll get those 10 extra bonus points. Does that make sense? If not, please let me know. Can I unmute Sherry? I bet I can.
Oh, that was also Sherry's question.
Oh, great. Great. Okay. Well, there you go.
Okay.
But Bree has one. Just scroll up a little bit. All
In
right.
the previous webinar, you had mentioned that these tax credits could be used for housing. Could you please explain how you see that being utilized? Yeah, so again, this is pretty broad. We do specifically mention housing as an eligible expense, and it's been used a variety of different ways. I'm happy to give you examples, two that come on the top of my head. One nonprofit organization used it to renovate housing to assist the IDD community. So they renovated the housing and then very low rent for those individuals with developmental and I just lost my train of thought. IDD stands for individuals with developmental and I'm blanking. IDD community. But anyway, wait, would you say what?
Behavioral?
No,
Oh.
It's IDD. I don't know.
Intellectual, someone put it in there.
And thank you.
Intellectual.
Oh my gosh,
There we
if
go.
Brent Kaiser was on this call, he would
Thank you, Rachel.
so embarrassed right now. So yeah, they renovated the homes and then they got those individuals in for very low rentals. That way they could live independently. Another project was in the Wichita area, I believe. They renovated some spaces to use as a youth shelter for girls who were in danger. So lots of different ways that it's being used for housing. Where can people go if they want to donate to a project that has been awarded? If you go to our website, again, kansascommerce.gov/CSP, we have a list of all of the awardees from last year who are currently selling their credits. And as soon as we announce the awardees this summer, we'll add that list. But there's a full spreadsheet of all 29 awarded projects from last year available on our website right now if you would like to see what credits are available and what organizations are doing. Perfect. Thanks for putting the website in there, Brandon.
Mm-hmm. Right. Any more questions for Sarah or generally for CDBG people?
Can we use in-kind donations and volunteer time for CDBG grants? That's you guys.
Yes, we can use in-kind donations. How does volunteer hours factor in?
I would assume volunteer hours might be included as in-kind donations. We would need to double check volunteer hours just to see that piece. But you can definitely use donations, in-kind donations for your CDBG grant.
And at least what, 10% has to be cash, but the rest of it, is that right? And the rest of
Brandon, I
it,
can jump in here if you want me to.
Linda, yes.
Hi, Linda.
please.
Hi. So the in-kind donations are great. The volunteer labor can be used to reduce the size or the cost of your grant money, but that's kind of a thank you. We appreciate you, but it can't be used as match.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And it looks like there's another question there. Can the public hearing be held during a city council meeting? Linda, do you want to take that?
Sure. That I'm going to defer that to the particular city. Typically, they are held in front of the city council meeting, but that's going to be what class of city they are and what those regulations are. So I would check with the particular city and use their specific regulations.
It looks like another question. Is it safe to assume that CDBG for childcare facilities will be open in future rounds, giving us time to have tax credit in hand to count toward the match? Yes, I can pretty confidently say that childcare facilities will be available next round. It is such a focus of this administration and of commerce in the state of Kansas that yes, I'm pretty confident it will be available next year. And if you're working towards a 2024 project and not a 2023 project, I would still encourage you to reach out to someone on our staff, have an opening, a preliminary phone call, reach out to a grant administrator or a regional planning commission and start these conversations early, because a lot of times you need to bring partners in, city members, county members, nonprofits, and things like that. So start these conversations early. All right, any more questions? All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Sarah, for joining. Thanks, Brandon, and everyone on our team for putting this together. If someone's on the call that wants us to reach out, we have everyone's email and contact information from the sign up form. there's anyone in the chat that if you want us to reach out to you and have a conversation about one of these programs, just put in the chat, please reach out to me and we'll send you an email next week. So, feel free to drop that information in the chat. But if not, I would encourage everyone to have a wonderful rest of their spring break and a fantastic weekend. And we will catch you next month for the next third Thursday at 3. Thank you very much.